1,000 years. It took me 1,000 years, but I finally made it back to Earth. I used to be a regular college student. Then, during summer break, I got accidentally yanked into the Empyrean Plane, a realm of cosmic cultivators. I trained there for a millennium, a long, brutal grind until I finally passed the final trial of ascension. The second I broke through to the pinnacle of my power, I tore a hole in the fabric of space-time and came home. I gave the last bolt of celestial lightning the middle finger as it faded. My vision blurred. When I opened my eyes again, I was standing in the middle of a familiar downtown shopping district. Above me, dark clouds roiled and thunder cracked the sky. What the hell? Where did this freak thunderstorm come from? It's gonna ruin my hair, some guy yelled, jogging past me. The air, that filthy, familiar smell of car exhaust. It was Earth. I was really back. An Uber Eats driver on a scooter pulled up beside me, his eyes wide with shock. Kid, you okay? That last lightning bolt hit the planter right next to you. Scared the hell out of me. I waved him off, my heart pounding in my chest. I'm fine, man. Hey, can you tell me the date? What year is it? It's August 20th, 2025. Did that lightning scramble your brains or something? 2025? My mind raced. I was pulled away in the summer of 2015. Holy crap, only 10 years had passed. I'd lived a hard 1,000 years over there. I'd hit the cosmic jackpot. My parents, they had to still be around. And my little sister, Mia, who used to follow me around begging for candy. A volcano of pure joy erupted inside me. As for my college ex-girlfriend, the one I was so crazy about back then, forget her. After 10 years, her kids were probably in elementary school by now. Time to think bigger. I was an ascended master now. The thunderclouds overhead were still rumbling, getting on my nerves and making a scene. I waved a hand at the sky, like shooing a fly. Instantly, the clouds vanished, the rain stopped, and the sun shone down. Everyone on the street just stopped and stared, looking from the clear sky back to me. The delivery driver's phone slipped from his hand and shattered on the pavement, but he didn't even notice. Sweet Mother of God. I didn't have time for them. With a single thought, my consciousness spread out like a net, covering the entire city. Found them. My old home. But my parents' life forces. They felt so weak. And Mia's emotions. She was terrified. Something was wrong. My eyes turned cold. I took one step, and my body vanished, leaving behind a petrified delivery driver and a street full of dumbfounded pedestrians. In the next instant, I was standing in front of my family's apartment building. The old brick walk-up looked even more run down than I remembered. But down below, a crowd had gathered. A couple of beat-up cargo vans were parked at the curb, and angry voices filled the air. You're moving today, one way or another. Don't make this harder than it has to be, a nasally, arrogant voice screeched. Please, just give us 2 more days. My daughter is about to get the money for the medical bills. A weak, desperate voice. It was my mom. My vision narrowed as I shoved my way through the crowd. The scene in front of me sent blood rushing to my head. My dad was lying on a makeshift stretcher, his face pale, a crude cast on his leg. My mom was crying, blocking the entrance to the building. A group of thugs in black tank tops, their arms covered in cheap tattoos, were trying to drag them away. The leader was a punk with bleach blonde hair and a cigarette dangling from his lips. He was patting my mom's cheek with his hand. Give you time? You think my boss, Tiger, prints money? You owe, you pay. Don't have the cash? We'll take this dump of an apartment instead. My sister, Mia, stood in front of our mom, her arms spread wide. A bright red handprint was visible on her cheek. Tears welled in her eyes, but her voice was defiant. Leave my mother alone. We'll pay you back. This is robbery. Oh yeah. The blonde punk grinned, reaching out to touch Mia's face. Feisty little thing, aren't ya? Tell you what, you can't pay with cash. You can pay me back in other ways. A few nights with me, and I'll even forget the interest. His hand never reached her. A hand that didn't look particularly strong clamped down on his wrist like a vice of steel. The punk froze, then turned to look at me. Who the fuck are you? Playing the hero? Let go of me before. Crack. A clean, sickening crunch of bone echoed in the sudden silence. Before the punk's scream could even escape his lips, I lifted my foot and casually kicked him in the stomach. He flew backward like he'd been hit by a freight train, folding in half before slamming into the side of cargo van 15 feet away. The metal door caved in around his body. His eyes bulged, and bloody foam bubbled from his mouth. He was out cold. The entire courtyard fell silent. Every thug, every neighbor watching from the sidelines, stood frozen, staring at me like I was a monster. I let the punk's broken wrist drop and walked toward my family, who were staring at me, their faces a mask of shock and disbelief. Seeing the age on my parents' faces, my father's broken leg, the slap mark on my sister's cheek, the murderous rage I had cultivated over 1,000 years in a brutal realm nearly exploded. I took a deep breath, forcing my voice to be gentle. Dad, Mom, Mia, I'm home. Ethan. Mia was the first to speak, her voice trembling. Without turning, I crooked a finger at the remaining thugs. You stay away from us, one of them stammered, raising a steel pipe. I couldn't be bothered to waste words. I slapped a hand through the empty air in his direction. Whump! An invisible force hit the thug and two of his buddies next to him. They were lifted off their feet, spun a full 720 degrees in the air, and slammed into a hedge, where they lay motionless. The last one, a skinny, weaselly guy, instantly wet his pants. He dropped to his knees with a thud and started banging his head on the pavement. Sir, please spare me. It wasn't my idea. We work for Panther. It was Tiger. That blonde piece of crap, he made us do it. I walked over and looked down at him. Take a message to your boss. By midnight tonight, I want a complete list of all his territories, all his businesses, and all his cash. He will bring it to my doorstep, and he will kneel and beg for my forgiveness. If he is 1 minute late or $1 short. I paused, my voice so cold it could freeze souls. I will find his home, and I will take every bone in his body, and one by one, I will grind them into dust. Now, get out of here. The thug scrambled away as if he'd been granted a presidential pardon, leaving a dark puddle on the ground. I turned back to my shell-shocked family and smiled, showing my teeth. It's okay now. Everything's going to be okay. First, let me take a look at Dad's leg. I learned the loan sharks had shoved my dad down a flight of stairs. A back alley doctor had set the bone wrong. To me, this injury was less than a paper cut. I sent a sliver of pure, refined essence into his leg. The broken bones knitted back together. The torn muscle fibers re-wove themselves. Before my dad could even process what was happening, his leg was completely healed. He stood up and took a step, then another, causing him and my mom to start crying about miracles and divine intervention. Our tiny apartment was filled with a chaotic mix of laughter and tears. I spun a tale about being discovered by a reclusive medical genius and spending the last 10 years in an intensive apprenticeship. They bought it. Looking around at our bare-bones apartment, I knew I needed to get some money fast. For the medical bills they thought they still had, for a better life, for Mia's college tuition. Ethan, Mia said, still shaken. Those guys, their boss, Panther, he runs this whole side of town. He's dangerous. They're a bunch of nobodies, I said, waving a hand dismissively. I'm going to step out for a bit, get us some cash. Be right back. I walked out of the building, casually expanding my senses, searching for a quick opportunity. As I walked, I passed a dark alleyway. I heard a woman scream and the sound of leering laughter. Where you running, sweetheart? Why don't you hang out with us for a bit? Hand over your purse and phone, or we'll have to mess up that pretty face. I wasn't going to get involved, but as my perception swept over them, I noticed something. The woman they had cornered had a faint protective energy around her, like a charm, though it was nearly depleted. So, Earth wasn't entirely mundane after all. Interesting. I turned into the alley. 3 lowlifes had a well-dressed, beautiful woman pinned against a brick wall. Excuse me, I said, my hand in my pockets, my tone as casual as if I were asking for directions. The 3 of them turned around, annoyed. Get lost. This ain't your business. The woman saw me, and her eyes widened with hope. Help me. They're robbing me. One of the thugs pulled a knife. You want to be a hero, pretty boy? You're going to get yourself killed. I sighed. Why do people always insist on wasting my time? Before the words had even finished leaving my mouth, I moved. No one saw a thing. There were just 3 crisp sounds. Slap, slap, slap. The 3 thugs spun like tops, spitting out blood and teeth before crumpling to the ground in unconscious heaps. The woman stared, her mouth hanging open in a perfect O. I walked over, picked up her purse from the ground, and handed it to her. You're safe now. She took it numbly, But then her expression changed to one of panic as she pointed at one of the men on the ground. Watch out! The thug, who had been faking, was struggling to raise his hand. He was holding a can of pepper spray and aiming it at my face. I didn't even flinch. I just blew a puff of air. The cloud of pepper spray reversed course, hitting the thug square in the face. The can flew from his hand and clattered to the ground. He started screaming, clawing at his eyes as he rolled on the filthy alley floor. The woman was completely petrified, staring at me as if I were a god. I shrugged. No big deal. Hey, while I have you, where can a guy make some fast cash around here? Legal, illegal, I don't care. As long as it's quick. She blinked, snapping out of her daze. Fast cash. The gem and mineral fair? It's happening today down at the old antique market. Thanks, I said, nodding, and turned to leave. Wait, she called out, rushing after me. She handed me a business card, her face slightly flushed. My name is Claire Sutton. Thank you so much for today. My family is in the jewelry business, so if you ever need help or are looking for a job, please call me. I took the card and glanced at it. Sutton Jewelers. CEO Claire Sutton. Sure. See you around, I said, stuffing the card in my pocket as I headed toward the market. A gem fair? It was basically a lottery, but with my perception, every uncut stone was like clear glass to me. The market was packed. A huge open-air square was filled with tables piled high with raw, uncut stones. I strolled in, and with a single sweep of my senses, I knew the score. Most of it was worthless rock. A few had a hint of green, but the essence within them was weak. Junk! I walked to a forgotten corner and pointed at a basketball-sized stone. It was ugly, covered in a thick, cracked rind, and priced at only $500. This one, a few old-timers nearby chuckled. First time, son? That rock's a doorstop. There goes $500 down the drain. The owner smiled kindly. You might want to pick another one, kid. That one's a dud for sure. This is the one. Cut it, I said, tapping my phone to pay. The man operating the diamond shook his head and started the machine. The screech of the blade filled the air as dust flew. Bust. Told you it was a bust, someone jeered. Suddenly, the operator's hand jerked. The sound of the saw changed. He sprayed a stream of water on the cut, and a breathtaking, pure, vibrant green exploded into view. Whoa, we've got color, and it's top grade. Emerald green. The clarity is insane. The old operator's hands were shaking. The entire crowd fell silent and then erupted. It's a monster. That piece of junk is a monster. Kid, don't cut anymore. I'll give you $50,000 for it, as is. I'll give you $100,000. My face was impassive. Keep cutting. When it was fully revealed, the stone was the size of a large grapefruit, perfectly translucent, without a single flaw, and humming with a vibrant energy. It's museum-grade imperial jade, someone screamed. The market went insane. The price instantly jumped into the seven figures. An old man in a tailored suit rushed forward, his face flushed with excitement. Young man, I will give you $3 million. Cash. I can wire it right now. I nodded. Done. A few minutes later, a text message confirmed the deposit of $3 million into my account. I was surrounded by looks of pure envy. The guys who had laughed at me looked sick. I put my phone away and was about to leave when a smarmy voice cut through the crowd. Not bad, kid. Pretty lucky. I've had my eye on that stone for a while. You just got to it first. Be smart. Transfer me $1 million, and we'll call it a friendly finder's fee. I turned to see a fat man wearing a thick gold chain, flanked by a couple of bodyguards. He was looking at me with greedy eyes. Who are you? I asked. Someone in the crowd whispered. That's Louis Vargas. They call him the Vulture. He runs this market, strong-arms people out of their finds. Louis puffed out his chest. I smiled. No. Louis's face darkened. You want to do this the easy way or the hard way? Boys. He didn't finish. I flicked my finger at a massive, man-sized boulder of uncut rock next to him. There was a soft thud. A perfectly round hole appeared in the center of the boulder, clear through to the other side. Louis and his bodyguards froze, the words caught in their throats. Cold sweat beaded on their foreheads. What the hell was this guy? I walked up to Louis and patted his rigid cheek. Still want to be friends? Louis shook his head so fast it looked like it might fly off, then get lost. Louis and his men scrambled away, practically tripping over themselves to escape. As I walked out of the market, followed by the awestruck gazes of the crowd, I felt pretty good. $3 million. That should keep the family comfortable for a while. After getting the money, I transferred $500,000 to my parents' account, telling them to spend it however they wanted. They and Mia were completely floored by the windfall, babbling incoherently on the phone. That night, using the information I'd pulled from the mind of that thug from earlier, I found a nightclub called Ember Lounge. It was one of Panther's main spots. The bouncers at the door saw my cheap clothes and tried to stop me, but one look from me and they froze in place. Inside, the music was deafening, the dance floor a writhing mass of bodies. I scanned the room with my perception and locked onto a VIP booth in the back. A bald man with a heavy gold chain was sitting there with a woman on each arm, sipping whiskey. That had to be Panther. I walked straight toward him. One of his underlings immediately stepped in my way. "Hey, this is Panther's booth. Get lost." I backhanded him and his buddy without breaking stride. They flew into a nearby table, sending drinks and people flying and causing a ripple of screams. Panther put his glass down, his expression turning grim. "Friend, I don't know you. You got business with me?" I pulled over a chair and sat down, popping a grape from the fruit platter into my mouth. "I'm here to collect a debt. For the loan you gave my family, plus pain and suffering, plus emotional distress for my sister. The total comes to $5 million. You paying with cash or a wire transfer?" Panther and his crew stared at me for a second, then burst out laughing. "Ha ha, $5 million? Kid, are you broke and crazy? Do you have any idea who I am? Get this lunatic out of here." A few huge bodyguards cracked their knuckles and moved in to grab me. I didn't even stand up. I just swept my leg out a few times. Crack, arc, thud. The bodyguards flew in different directions, their limbs bent at unnatural angles, smashing into tables and crying out in agony. The music screeched to a halt. The entire club was staring in stunned silence. Panther's smile was gone, replaced by a vicious scowl. He reached under a cushion and pulled out a black pistol, aiming it at me. "So you can fight, huh? Let's see you move faster than a bullet." The women with him screamed and ducked. I looked at the gun in his hand and smiled. In the Empyrean plane, this little piece of metal wouldn't even qualify as a low-level magical artifact. I beckoned at the barrel of the gun with my finger. Panther blinked, then instinctively pulled the trigger. Click! The firing pin fell on an empty chamber. He looked confused and pulled the trigger again and again. Click! 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 I opened my hand. Several brass bullets were spinning lazily in my palm. "Looking for these?" I asked with a grin. Panther's eyes nearly popped out his head. A cold sweat drenched his shirt. What? What are you? Are you even human?" I stood up, walked over to him, and took the empty gun from his trembling hand. As if it were modeling clay, I casually crumpled it into a ball of scrap metal and dropped it at his feet. "I'm the person you can't afford to piss off. $5 million for your life and the lives of all your men. Are you going to pay or not?" I released a tiny fraction of my spiritual pressure. Panther felt as if a mountain had just been dropped on him. He couldn't breathe. His entire body screamed in terror. He fell to his knees with a thud, and the front of his expensive pants darkened. I'll pay. Please spare my life. I'm transferring it right now," he cried, fumbling for his phone. A few minutes later, another $5 million hit my account. I put my phone away and nudged the whimpering blob that was Panther with my foot. "Remember this. From now on, I don't want to see you or your people within a 10-mile radius of my family. If I ever hear about you running scams or hurting innocent people again, I'll come back for another chat. Never again. I swear, never again," he blubbered, banging his head on the floor. I ignored him and walked out of the nightclub, leaving a dead silent room full of terrified people in my wake. The next day, I took my parents and Mia out shopping for new clothes and new phones. We had a huge celebratory dinner. For the first time in a long time, my family was genuinely happy. In the afternoon, I took Mia to her dorm at the university to pick up some things. She'd been accepted to the best school in the state, Northgate University, but hadn't been able to move in because of all the trouble at home. Just as we got to her dorm, a slick-haired guy holding a massive bouquet of roses intercepted us. His face lit up when he saw Mia. "Mia, you're finally here. I called you 100 times. Why didn't you pick up?" he whined, reaching out to grab her arm. Mia flinched and ducked behind me. Chad, I told you, I'm not interested. Please stop harassing me. So a persistent, unwanted admirer. Chad's face soured. He finally noticed me, looking me up and down, taking in my simple clothes. Mia, who's this? Some cousin from the sticks? He's dressed like he shops at Goodwill. My brow furrowed. Mia's face flushed with anger. Shut up, Chad. This is my brother. Oh, the big brother. Chad's demeanor changed in a flash. He stuck out his hand with a greasy smile. Hey man, Chad Kensington. My dad is the CEO of Kensington Corp. Ouch. I hadn't touched him. I just gave him a gentle nudge with my consciousness. He slipped as if the sidewalk were coated in ice, landing flat on his back. The roses scattered everywhere. A few girls walking by giggled into their hands. Chad scrambled up, his face beet red. Did you just push me? Do you have any idea who my father is? I cleaned out my ear, bored. I don't care if your father is the president. Get lost before I change my mind. You're dead. Chad exploded, waving a hand behind him. Get him. I don't care if you break something, I'll cover it. Two guys who had been standing behind him, built like linebackers, grinned and charged. They looked like they'd had some training, better than the nightclub thugs, but that was it. Ethan, look out. Mia screamed. I didn't move an inch. The first guy threw a punch in my face. I casually lifted a hand and caught his fist. Then I squeezed. Crack. AR. The guy's wrist bent at a sickening angle, and he dropped his knees, howling. The second guy threw a kick. I was faster. The tip of my shoe tapped the side of his supporting knee. Crack. Another sharp snap, and he went down, clutching his mangled leg. The whole thing took less than 2 seconds. The arrogant look on Chad's face froze, then melted into pure terror. He started backing away. I let go of the first guy's hand, and he collapsed. I started walking toward Chad. You stay away from me, he stammered, fumbling behind his back and pulling something out. A small, silver handgun. The remaining students who had been watching gasped and scattered. Ethan. Mia's face was white with fear. Chad's hands trembled as he pointed the gun at me. So you can fight, huh? Move 1 more inch. I'll shoot you, I swear to God. I stopped, looked at the little toy in his hand, and smiled. Mortals on this planet really thought these things were the ultimate weapon. You sure? I asked, my voice laced with amusement. Don't push me, Chad screamed, his finger tightening on the trigger. Mia, close your eyes, I said calmly. She squeezed them shut. At that exact moment, Chad pulled the trigger. Bang! The gunshot echoed across the campus plaza. The students who hadn't gotten far enough away flinched. Someone screamed, but in the next second, everyone's eyes went wide, as if they were witnessing the impossible. I was still standing there, completely unharmed. My right hand was held up in front of me, and pinched between my thumb and index finger was a slightly smoking, flattened brass slug. I had caught the bullet. Time seemed to stop. The gun dropped from Chad's hand and clattered on the pavement. His mouth hung open, his eyes were bulging, and his whole body was shaking like a leaf in a hurricane. I let the bullet drop. It hit the ground with a soft tink. I walked up to the petrified Chad and patted his cheek. Are we done playing now? A gurgling sound came from his throat, and the distinct, acrid smell of urine filled the air. He'd pissed himself. Go tell your father, my voice was ice, that my name is Ethan Hayes. If I ever see you near my sister again, or if your family causes any trouble for mine, I won't mind seeing the Kensington Corporation change hands. Now, take your dogs and get out of my sight. Chad snapped out of his stupor. He scrambled away, not even bothering with his injured goons, and practically fell into his sports car. The engine roared as he peeled out, fleeing the scene. The 2 injured men helped each other up, shot me one terrified look, and limped away as fast as they could. The plaza was dead silent. Every student left was staring at me with a mixture of awe and fear. Mia finally dared to open her eyes. Seeing that I was okay, she rushed forward and threw her arms around me, bursting into tears. Ethan, you scare me to death. Are you okay? The gun. I patted her back. It's fine. A little parlor trick. Your brother's a lot tougher than you remember. Come on, let's go get your stuff. Followed by countless complex stairs, I led my still shaking sister into the dorm. After this, I doubted anyone at this university would ever bother her again. After helping Mia get settled, I transferred enough money to her account for the next 4 years and told her to focus on her studies and not to worry about a thing. I had just left the campus when my phone rang. It was an unknown number. Hello. Is this Mr. Hayes? A familiar female voice asked, laced with panic and the edge of a sob. Who is this? It's Claire Sutton. From the alley yesterday, you saved me. Oh, right. What's up? I remembered the CEO of the jewelry company. Mr. Hayes, please, I need your help again. My grandfather, he suddenly collapsed. He's in a coma. The doctors say he won't make it, and the company is... Her voice broke, and she couldn't continue. My eyebrows rose. What a coincidence. Send me the address, I said. I had nothing better to do, and the protective charm she wore had piqued my interest. A moment later, an address came through for the city's most exclusive private hospital. I grabbed a cab and headed for the VIP wing. As I approached the door to her grandfather's room, I could hear arguing inside. Claire, stop being so stubborn. Master Wong is the most renowned mystic in Southeast Asia. He can wake grandfather up, a sharp male voice insisted. He's right, sis. This is our only option. And if we mortgage our shares to Mr. Vargas, we'll have the capital to get through this crisis, a younger male voice added. No, there's something wrong with that Master Wong. And Louis Vargas has been trying to swallow our company for years. Mortgaging our shares to him now would be letting the wolf in the door. Claire's voice was weak but firm. It's not your decision to make. I'm in charge now, the first man yelled. I pushed the door open and walked in. The room was crowded. Claire was standing by the hospital bed, her face pale. An old man lay unconscious in the bed, hooked up to machines. Across from her were two men in expensive suits with greedy faces, her uncle and brother, I presumed. Standing beside them was a withered old man in strange black robes, his eyes full of a sinister light. That must be Master Wong. He reeked of dark energy. And there was one more person I recognized. Louis, the vulture Vargas, the fat man from the gem market. He was standing off to the side, a smug look on his face. My entrance made everyone turn. Who the hell are you? Get out, Claire's brother shouted, pointing at me. When Claire saw me, her eyes lit up as if she'd seen her savior. Mr. Hayes. Louis Vargas's face went white when he saw me. He instinctively took a step back, a flash of terror in his eyes, but then he glanced at Master Wong and seemed to regain a little courage. You again. This has nothing to do with you, kid. Beat it. I ignored him and walked straight to the hospital bed. My senses swept over the unconscious old man. Interesting. This wasn't a normal illness. His soul was entangled and suppressed by a dark, malevolent energy that was slowly draining his life force. And that energy had the same signature as the so-called Master Wong. I looked at Claire. Your grandfather isn't sick. Someone put a curse on him. The room fell silent. Bullshit, Claire's uncle shrieked. Where did this con artist come from? Don't listen to his nonsense. Master Wong, get this troublemaker out of here. Master Wong took a step forward, his cold eyes locking onto me. He spoke in heavily accented English. Young man, do not speak of what you do not understand. Mr. Sutton has been afflicted by a negative entity. Only my secret techniques can save him. He tried to project a weak wave of mental energy at me, tried to intimidate me. I scoffed. You call that pathetic parlor trick a secret technique? My gaze hardened, and I sent a wave of pure spiritual pressure back at him. Splat. Master Wong staggered back as if he'd been hit by a car, his face turning ashen. He let out a choked gasp, and a trickle of black blood dripped from the corner of his mouth. You are also... He stammered, his eyes wide with terror. I didn't spare him another glance. I turned to Claire. I can save him. Do you trust me? Claire looked from the vomiting mystic to me, and then, clenching her jaw, she nodded firmly. I trust you. Claire, are you crazy? Her uncle and brother screamed. Louis Vargas panicked. Kids, stay out of this. I ignored them all, walked to the bedside, and hovered my hand over Mr. Sutton's forehead. A stream of impossibly pure essence flowed from my palm into his body. It was like sunlight melting snow. The dark, parasitic energy clinging to his soul was instantly vaporized. At the same time, I sent in a sliver of life-giving energy to nourish his depleted body. The medical monitors, which had been blaring alarms with critical readings, suddenly went silent. Then, one by one, they all stabilized at perfect, healthy levels. Beep, beep, beep. Heart rate normal. Blood oxygen at 100%. Blood pressure stable. As everyone watched in stunned disbelief, the old man's eyelids fluttered. Then, slowly, he opened his eyes. "Grandpa!" Claire cried, tears of joy streaming down her face as she rushed to his side. "Mister." Sutton looked around, confused. What? What happened to me?" The room was dead silent. Claire's uncle, her brother, and Louis Vargas were frozen, their faces the color of ash. Seeing his plan had gone up in smoke, Master Wong tried to slip out the door. "Did I say you could leave?" I said calmly, without even turning around. Master Wong's body locked up instantly, unable to move a muscle. Only his eyes, filled with utter horror, could move. I slowly turned around, my gaze sweeping over the ashen-faced Louis Vargas and the two traitors of the Sutton family. "All right," I said, my voice quiet but carrying the weight of impending doom. "Now, let's talk about the prize for attempting to murder your patriarch and steal his company." My voice was calm, but the temperature in the room dropped to absolute zero. The hospital room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop, broken only by the steady beeping of the monitors and the faint, recovering breaths of old Mr. Sutton. Louis Vargas and Claire's uncle and brother looked like they'd been dipped in flour, their legs shaking so badly they could barely stand. The mystic from Southeast Asia, Master Wong, was still frozen in place by my will, his eyes darting around wildly as sweat poured down his face. Claire held her grandfather's hand, a whirlwind of relief and joy washing over her. The way she looked at me was a mixture of gratitude and pure, unadulterated awe. I pulled over a chair and sat down, crossing my legs, my eyes landing first on Louis Vargas. "So, you're the vulture, huh? Big ambitions. Hire a sorcerer to kill the old man, then swoop in to pick the bones of his company. I guess you didn't learn your lesson at the gem market yesterday." Louis trembled and nearly collapsed. "Sir, mister, it's a misunderstanding. It was all Michael Sutton's idea," he blurted out, pointing at Claire's uncle. "He promised me a controlling share if I helped him. I was greedy. I was a fool." He started slapping himself hard across the face, the sound echoing in the silent room. I turned my gaze to Michael Sutton and his son. Michael tried to bluff, but his shaking voice gave him away. Don't you listen to him. Dad, it's all lies. I was just trying to protect the company." "On the bed, mister." Sutton, though weak, was sharp as a tack. He looked at his son and grandson, then at the tearful but resolute Claire, and finally at me, the inscrutable young man who had saved him. A deep, painful understanding dawned on his face, and he closed his eyes with a heavy sigh. "Protect the company? By hiring someone to kill me?" The old man's voice was frail but filled with icy disappointment. Michael Sutton had nothing left to say. His face was a mask of despair. I had no interest in their family drama. I crooked a finger at Master Wong. The invisible bonds on him loosened just enough for him to speak. He immediately dropped to the floor, banging his head on the linoleum. "Mercy, great master, mercy. I was only hired by Vargas and Sutton to place a soul-draining hex on the old man. I know I was wrong. Please, let me go. I am less than dirt beneath your feet." Well, that was a full confession. Michael and his son finally crumpled, all strength leaving their bodies. I nodded, turning to Claire. "How you want to handle this is your family's business. I won't interfere." Claire wiped her eyes, her expression hardening into steel. She took out her phone. "Security, get to the VIP wing immediately. And call the police. We have an attempted murder and corporate conspiracy." Hospital security arrived first, easily restraining the boneless Sutton men and the terrified Louis Vargas. Master Wong made a brief attempt to resist, but one glance from me had him surrendering meekly. The police arrived soon after, and with Claire's testimony and the mystic's full confession, the whole group was led away in handcuffs. The room was finally quiet. "Mister." Sutton tried to sit up to thank me, but I held up a hand. "It was nothing. You should rest. Your soul needs to recover." I sent another invisible stream of pure essence into him, enough to heal his body and ensure he'd live a long, healthy life. The old man felt a warm, invigorating current spread through his limbs and looked at me as if I were a living deity. Claire walked over and gave me a deep, formal bow. Mr. Hayes, I have no words to thank you. From this day forward, you are the greatest friend and benefactor of the Sutton family. Anything you ask for, anything at all, we will make it happen. I thought for a moment. I didn't really need anything. Money? I still had most of the 8 million from the gem and Panther. Power? Not interested. Could you give me a driver's license? And maybe a car for getting around. Something simple. I don't like anything too flashy, I said offhandedly. Taking cabs or teleporting short distances was getting a bit inconvenient. Claire blinked, surprised by the simplicity of my request, then nodded vigorously. Of course, I'll have it taken care of immediately. With the matter settled, I got up to leave. Claire quickly handed me a sleek, black credit card. Mr. Hayes, please take this. It grants you unlimited, complimentary access to any of the Sutton family's businesses and services. You must accept it. It's the least I can do. I glanced at the card and took it. It might be useful for treating my family. A few days later, Claire personally delivered my new license and a brand new black Audi A8L to my building. It was understated but powerful. Perfect. Life at home improved dramatically. My parents were always smiling, and Mia was thriving at school, completely free from harassment. As for the local crime lord, Panther, I heard he sold off all his assets overnight and fled the country, disappearing without a trace. The city's underworld had been turned upside down, but no one knew it was because of me. Occasionally, I would scan the globe with my consciousness. I found a few interesting places with trace amounts of ambient energy, and even a couple of so-called cultivators hiding out in remote mountains. Their power levels were pathetic. Earth truly was in a dormant age, almost entirely devoid of spiritual essence. But what did that matter to me? I was, for all intents and purposes, the only god on this planet. Life was starting to get a little boring. Then one day, a news report caught my attention. Strange weather patterns and geological anomalies had been detected in a remote, uninhabited stretch of the Nevada desert, possibly caused by a unique meteorite impact. Out of habit, I extended my senses across the continent. The energy radiating from the impact crater wasn't normal radiation. It was a faint, almost undetectable, yet incredibly high-grade energy signature. It even caused a faint stirring in the deep, dormant well of power within me. Interesting. It seemed this world wasn't quite as simple as it looked on the surface. Maybe it wouldn't be so boring after all. I smiled and picked up the Audi keys from the table. Mom, Dad, I'm going on a road trip for a few days.